Board of Directors meeting. It's Friday the 21st, 9:15 a.m. We're going to start going back into December to the approval of the minutes from the December 2024 meeting, which is, everyone on here can look at that. No cookies or anything. So do we have any questions, comments, or motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. That passes. On to Executive Director's Report. Hold for your old, remember, hold for your old business.
Yeah. Yeah. We can go into, we can move forward to that whole business.
Okay.
Instead of taking care of it up front, we'll take care of it towards the end there.
Anything that you wanted to say about ARPA funds, or?
I mean, I know, and we're talking about that, right, still in old business, but, I mean, I know, me and Danae were just talking the other day about, what do we have here, Danae? I know it's right in front of me, but 190.
Now, if you want, the items at the bottom, they're like reoccurring reminders.
Yeah, so we have 194,594 left for ARPA funds, and me and Danae were just talking about, there were some folks that weren't reached by one of the last rounds that were applied for it. I know there's some folks that were maybe looking to take down, do another drawdown, that they maybe only did 25 at first, and they could use another 25 since we were doing up to 50.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and we, there was also two issues where two businesses received the grants and then have since left the city.
Yeah.
So we're working on,
Who's the other one? You got the Mushroom Place and what was it?
the Stone Crow. Fat Crow up on Campbell's Avenue and old.
Oh, yeah, the old dine.
That's the old diner,
Yeah,
yeah. Now John's building there.
Okay.
Really, one of the big things that we're focused on is any type of materials and stuff, because those obviously left the city. I mean, some of the improvements that might have been done to those buildings could be beneficial to another business.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to be reasonable, but I mean, also part of it, the idea is that you stayed in the city once you receive the funds, of course. So it's been such a really good program, everybody that benefited from it. So I do know that me and Danae are going to sit and talk a little bit more so we can bring to the board what maybe some other.
Is 194, last time we looked at this, wasn't it like was that more than what we've, like, has the amount left gone up a little bit?
Believe so, right? From our last.
Sheet is the latest tally.
Yeah, I think at one point we were down like maybe like 115.
There was also one that might have been marked as questionable. They really were never able to provide proof, and
Yeah, that seems pretty high though.
Yeah.
It's higher than I would expect.
Yeah, I think the amount that's on the sheet is pretty accurate.
yeah, that's the most up to date. So that definitely provides opportunity. We even talked about, do we, try to go for folks that could possibly use the $25,000 match, maybe maximize how many more businesses we can reach. So me and Danae will be sitting down more about that, and then I'd say by the next board meeting we could update everybody. I do know, just to talk about process, I know there was a steering committee before for this, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Was the steering committee something that this board decided how to go about allocating these funds, or was that part of the contract with
Part of our program
the city?
guidelines where we had put a packet together that outlined how the whole thing was going to work.
Okay.
I don't know who decided that the committee was going to be part of it, but it is listed in the program.
In the program. So I mean,
The board didn't have any
Didn't have any.
Didn't have any direct touch to
So
that.
really, what would probably have to happen is we can come up with some options, and we might have to try to convene that steering committee.
All the remaining ones are part of that. Feel free that if those come up if those make it to us, that should be fine. Yeah, the new ones would just think about, like, go maybe revisit the original, and you might have to do a committee for it or something. But there's still, I think when I saw the list, there was still like at least a half dozen that, and there's the people that were asking for more. So you might be able to clear it all out with that. But if there's anyone new, then it would just be like open it back up for the public at the very least.
Okay.
For a period of time. Whether you need the committee to review it or not, I'm not sure.
Guidelines, it wasn't part of
Right.
the grant agreement with the city to get the ARPA funds. So we came up with this super comprehensive
Yeah.
packet, and, you know, if we have to change some things in that, I don't think it would be a problem.
All right. And if, so in theory, if we pretty much can find a home for funds for everybody, but let's just say we have one allotment that we could give one new person, we could arguably just have the board vote on it and decide that's who we'd want to give it to. I would think, since it's our rule that we made a steering committee, we could probably change our own rules. Unless the board thinks otherwise, you know?
The only thing I would consider would be maybe just give it a time period of like between board meetings to just post on the website. And just like, post it up, we've got room for this, apply, and then just the reality is someone's gonna have to review those, but like one round of that should be
Yeah, 'cause
enough for us to be able to
anyways.
review.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good to
Hey,
me.
what were the dollar amounts that left? So the Crow was, they were 25, right?
They weren't even 25. They.
It's on here, I'm looking for it, I don't see it, it's addressed.
Same with the mushroom one,
Yeah,
that
I
wasn't
just
even
seen
20.
Yeah.
No, they were like.
Stone Crow and,
Yeah,
yeah, they might have added up to 25 altogether.
Second page.
I'll take.
Oh, Fat Crow, okay. Okay, computer not accurate.
It was a too small one.
Okay.
Oh.
Hey, the Mediterranean Grill, I see that they were awarded on the 20th of December. They've had some issues up there. Are they?
Well,
They're
that's
closed.
part of why that number went back up. They did not get $1 of this.
Okay.
Got it, that
Okay.
makes sense.
I was hoping that was,
So they were the example, frankly, of multiple things. They're really in violation of their agreement in multiple ways. One, they did not provide the proper proof. They paid for a lot of stuff in cash and were not fulfilling the proof part of it. And one of the key things about these, agreements is you also have to be in good standing with the city. So you're not in good standing if Cobalt
Right.
boarded up your building and you had a shooting.
Right.
Yes, and
right.
yeah, and we are not allowing that one part of, that business to open until he's gotta come up with a plan and go before the planning board, and I don't foresee that to happen. There's a bunch of things going on in court as well, so.
okay.
But yeah, that would pretty much explain, we were talking in the 150-ish.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what,
Yeah. That's kinda what I meant by
Yeah.
saying before, but then,
Okay. Well, I had to bring it up, so I was like,
yeah, no, it's,
I would, yeah, but if you
Unfortunate.
guys go through your open list and the people that have asked for more by next meeting, and then by next meeting we can decide, I would just put something public, almost like the foreclosed list, just somewhere on the LDC page, it's reopened, limited, with whatever we think is remaining, and then because I know there's probably been folks that have been asking you and other people to apply to this, just go right to them when that's live and just say you've got to apply for it now.
mhm.
And obviously they're in the pool for it, but.
Nice. And, another thing outside of the, business improvement grants, I mean, not to push to old business, but I guess I'm.
Do your thing. You
sorry,
got all
Jeff,
three
yeah,
of these.
buddy. Yeah, but, I mean, I know with geothermal, one thing too, we have a meeting on Monday, with National Grid, a little bit more of a scaled down meeting. I know that, one of my to-do lists today is to look over the agreement with, National Grid, the draft agreement. Yes, Randy, I will do it today, and,
Just bigger picture on the geothermal is that we now, they've nailed down the date where National Grid has to do their filing to PSC,
mhm.
which is, I believe it's July 9th. Does that sound about right? No, it's July. So between now and July, actually, it'd be
Agreement needs to be
before
finalized.
July.
Yeah.
Now and let's say June, we need to have all of our lease agreements in place, which is lease between the LDC and the city, lease between, for the bore field, lease between LDC and for the 73 River Street, which is the staircase garage, and then there needs to be a lease with, a National Grid and and I guess it's National Grid in the city, or, and then there's a sublease,
Mhm.
I guess LDC in the city and a sublease to National Grid.
Mhm.
We need to have all those in place, as well as our agreement with National Grid on how much the fee is gonna be.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so we need to get that as well as the secret done, all before June.
Okay. And I know we'll have the seeker in
And that
front of
means
the
city
council
council.
soon, yeah. Now, has the lease agreement between the LDC and the city, has that gone over to the city yet? It has not,
No.
I was just,
Justin is
Okay.
still needs to draft up those leases, and we need to share them with Rick.
and there needs to be a survey completed as well, is that part of the plan?
The survey was part of the monument to, River Street location for the energy center.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that Grid has put forward part of their,
Okay.
but actually, something that Justin could speak on. When one monument, square was done for the old city hall, looks like some parcels were combined. So there might be a need to adjust the lot line for upper parcel that's going to be.
Why not throw a lot line adjustment into it? Yeah. From your knowledge, Andrew, is the survey, will all that would have to, of course, take place before the July 9th, because
Right.
it has to be part of these, yes. And I know this, yeah, okay. Well, just making sure. Because I actually did talk to Rick the other day, as I was reviewing some of the stuff, I wanted to see if he had his eyes on it anyways, because of course, we can't expect that to be a one-week turnaround. So, you know, we gotta, get that stuff over, so, okay. And then, the only other thing, I guess, since I've just been going here too, but this, I'm eager for Andrew's, update on the King Fuels remediation, but, we are seeing there's discussions being had of, moving some businesses, the salt pile, some of those conversations have started to take place, of potential of what the actual mechanics of moving the salt pile is. Obviously, it's not like that's gonna happen in a week or a year, but, kind of some very preliminary talks are starting with that. Some different meetings, Justin, probably Randy too, will be joining me for a meeting to talk about with some folks, that own property down there, and just what that may start to look like, so, which is exciting, because, when we got that agreement put in to move the salt pile, I wanna say it's a 3-year with probably a 2 1-year extensions, and I think we ultimately all felt like we'd probably be pushing it to that 5-year, and again, not that it's gonna happen tomorrow, but it does feel like it could have possibly happened sooner than the 5 years, from what I'm talking with everybody. So that's really an exciting thing for the city, for the LDC, for the development on the riverfront to see. And, look, we've been talking about King Fuels for ever. I think I was in high school, we were talking about King Fuels. So, I mean, we've been talking about it for a while, so it's exciting stuff.
So Louise made a presentation to us, I don't know, a year ago now, maybe?
Yeah,
Year and a half
Chuck the
ago?
funding.
Yeah, Chuck and all them. Is that still,
Versions of that are still
Okay.
in play.
okay, okay,
Yeah.
all right. So that's tying into this salt pile, with that, okay,
Mhm.
all right.
Like I said, kind of versions of
I
it, that
understand.
I'm sure will
Continue to morph.
swing,
Continue to morph, yeah.
back and forth, but yeah, I guess I feel from what, it does feel like there is a light at the end of the tunnel, at least with this, so.
Is Chuck still involved?
Not with Louise.
Right, 'cause I know,
He's
yeah, he's,
involved he is involved in these projects in there, because one of the biggest things, I mean, obviously Chuck's great, but he just learned so much brownfield knowledge working for Louise. He's
Right.
like the mini brownfield expert in the area now. So he is involved.
okay. I know he's off on his own, so.
Yeah, yep.
Is there like a map?
Andrew was just there yesterday, so he might have some update
Oh,
on King
okay.
Fuel.
Good.
Oh, okay.
But as you might recall that,
I miss it.
the remedial construction, that site has entered phase two. So phase one was what's generally known as a dig and dump. That was for the larger section on the east side where, soil was excavated and removed and replaced with soil. That was a significant undertaking because there were depths of up to 30 feet that had to be excavated to exhume contamination. In November of 24, phase two commenced. That location is closer to the Wynantskill and a little bit past it, south of the Sperry Warehouse, and a little bit south of the Wynantskill for the second area. What that involves is mostly excavation and in situ solidification, which is they'll divvy up that parcel into cells and excavate, use a slurry mix, put back, and essentially what happens is the contaminants bond with the slurry mix, water passes through, and by bonding, it breaks down and becomes less toxic, and it also prevents transport of contamination from continuing in its usual route, most likely and usually to the Hudson River. So it does that, and it effectively creates a much more solid subbase. So if you're constructing on top of it, it provides more stability for the soil. They've been finding a lot of concrete footings underneath there. What had been done with some of the old structures, they just would drop steel basic pipes, fill them with concrete, and build them on top of them. So some of those go down to bedrock, pulling those out pretty effectively. Everything's going quite well. So after the in situ solidification occurs, then they do grading and cover to match the phase one area. A big change that is seen is along the Wynantskill, where you had the historical piping that went from the Alamo building to the King Fuel site. That's all being removed. The metal walkways and such that existed to accommodate the pipes, all being removed. The sheet piling that exists on the side of the Wynantskill being removed. So that area, the DEC standards of stream bank remediation now, you'll probably have about a 50-foot grade coming back from the Wynantskill, and it'll all be natural. And just the aesthetic of it will be pretty significant. It'll be very nice. Everything is anticipated to continue until October of this year for phase two. Things are going well. National Grid and their contractor never says it's going quickly. So if they say a year, they'll always stick to it's going to take.
That's not a word in National Grid's vocabulary. They don't.
Yeah, they're pretty firm on an annual cycle. If they say it's going to take 3 years, they're going to do 3 years. Although if they can, towards the end, if they say they're pretty much done, they know they can pay less money by entering a new phase. So it might be a balance there, but it looks as they're continuing, it looks like definitely by October it'll be complete.
Andrew, you said they did it in cells. Have any of the cells been complete with the slurry, and has it proven out that it works?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you ever drive down there, Brown and Caldwell is overseeing the work for National Grid, and the contractor that is down there, the equipment, the excavators and such. It's just a machine. They have.
Well, I just want to make sure that the theory is proven out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, it's an old process. Just what you have in the slurry itself, in the Portland cement, the other chemicals that help in the bonding process. That has to be approved by DEC before it's done. So that's all part of the record of decision and the remedial construction approval process that gets vetted through that. The only blip on the radar thus far has been there's an emergency process where a horn will blare if an emergency happens on the site. Basically, has everyone, go to their station. Well, a couple weeks ago, a horn started blaring, and everyone stopped and went to the trailers. Wasn't theirs though. Maine is building up their location along the river south of Main Street, and the fellow that was operating the bulldozer was waiting for the next load of material to spread. Kind of got tired and had headphones on. Just kind of took a nap. And
Oh my God.
on the horn.
Oh my God.
So the bulldozer horn was blaring, and everybody was running around. It became fuel like it was actually off the so they ran up to him thinking he might have had a medical emergency, but no, he was just
Tired.
a little sleepy, was cold, and
Over that CDL max, yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
But it is, with it open, the way it is, and, with the removal of old infrastructure, it's becoming even more apparent, the utility of the site and the attractiveness of the site. There is a big mound of concrete that's forming that will be taken out in one fell swoop, but that's all from the pads of the gas holders, and they found it to be quite clean, so that can be reused in some capacity, whether it's alternative daily fill at the landfill or sub-base somewhere. But that's good news. What's left is just the connectivity of that site to the city site with the Sperry warehouse, and that's a sore thumb sticking out there that ultimately be presumably the last piece of the puzzle for that entire southern area, all that city control as opposed to incorporate that into consideration for redevelopment. But everything relative to the remedial construction is going on schedule and well.
Does anything happen, does any of the scope happen, like, east of the railroad tracks? Like from the railroad tracks to, what was that, Burton Ave? Or is everything
No.
from there to the river?
Yeah, the limits of work are actually a little bit to the west of the railroad tracks. The CSX has their right of way about 50 feet in the center of the tracks, either side. And then there's an old chain link fence which delineated the boundaries of the site. So the tracks are an attractive nuisance for ATVs and dumping and such, but it's the railroad's responsibility.
What about the phase one, sorry, wasn't there some problems with, once that was cleaned up, that people started dumping there again?
There was one instance of dumping down near Water Street, which is kind of an area that can't be seen. And Water Street itself is often used for dumping. People might try to go up to the county waste entry, but closed or whatever, just quickly offloaded on that hill. But since then, especially since operations have restarted, there's been nothing.
Didn't we secure it a little more, or did we secure it a little more, or no?
We didn't. We
Okay.
talked about the potential of it, but
It's not as much of a problem as it was before.
No,
All right.
not,
I thought we
not with things.
bought
being
fence.
operated.
I
thought LDC bought fence for it.
The,
I thought so.
prior to remedial construction starting, we did have a fencing court to
Mhm.
cordon off the areas, on either side of the road to prevent something or people getting in there. But that was before things were cleared out and the line of sight from most everywhere above and around it wasn't as great. The only issue it had with people going on to the phase one site is county waste, trucks to turn around. So they've asked them not to do that, and that's been fine. But nothing further as far as that goes. And if something subsequent happens, the suggestion of putting Jersey barriers along the roadway to prevent cars from going in or trucks going in would probably be best. That way you don't have to dig and establish permanency with fencing. Temporary fencing tends not to work. It's a lot of linear feet to secure the entire area. get around, like you're saying, around
Mhm.
the railroad area. So it's very hard to secure that entire site due to the size of it at a cost that's manageable.
Mhm.
But there are means of deterrence that could be placed, in areas that might or known to lend themselves to, kind of off the camera, something or activity.
Okay. What are the next steps after phase two?
Oh, thanks, I was just gonna ask that.
Ah.
There's a plan.
There is
Self
a phase
spoken
three,
for or not?
and what that does is it moves towards the river.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much it's in between the National Grid substation and the former ELAT building. That was a bigger issue when the gas line was still, in play along the river. That was moved before Reno construction started. So that process, again, is going to be in situ stabilization, but on a bigger scale. They'll probably have big augers that are mixing along down to the river, and that's the third phase. But that's exclusively to the west of the road as it exists now.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole eastern side of the site completed for activity.
There's nothing interfacing with the river, like, south, it's all like filled into the water. And then if you wanna go north, you're at the seawall. Is that all seawall there? Like old?
No, it's natural.
Yeah.
There's no buildup. In fact, the area between the grid substation and the former ELAT building is a preferred fishing area. You could walk right down, walk along riverbank, all the way down to the old dock, the pier that exists there. But there's nothing, no any structure in that area. So it's just the buildup from the industrial use. That area was made flat in the 1800s by at least 8 foot of fill coming up.
Yeah, right, I'm looking at the wall, it ends at like Madison Street, yeah, that's right.
So phase three completion is scheduled for when?
Most likely, that'll be a 26 cycle.
Does phase three incorporate any pulling out of the dolphins and all that, the removal of the dolphin, all
No,
that?
nothing in the water.
Okay. Is that controlled by the Corps? The dolphins?
That's out there.
Yeah, in the water?
That's actually, my understanding is that's LDC property.
You're right, but who controls that? Would that be, if we want to remove that, I'm thinking ahead as a development, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna have pretty good property at 27, so if there's dolphins dolphin is their peers out in the water,
Mm-hmm.
if we want to remove them,
There's actually an interest in not removing it
okay,
because storing something is easier to permit than
correct,
demolishing and trying to rebuild.
okay,
So the interest that has been expressed on that site is the potential to use the waterfront as a loading, unloading,
okay,
and unloading, unloading capacity.
okay.
And to do that,
I thought that was off the table, so it's back-ish.
well, you know,
Back to that flag.
nothing's
Okay.
off the table until something
I understand, okay,
is
understand,
in play.
okay,
So there's an understanding that there would be dredging necessary to reactivate that. But there's also consideration if you keep that dolphin in play and if the Chevron site is acquired, then that area a little bit more south
mhm,
might be a good thing to entertain relative to that kind of waterway use. Right, because the more north you get, when you get the substation, then you've got a huge cable that runs across the river that you really don't dredge or get near that National Grid controls. So the more south you go,
right, so again, I understand that we own the property that adjoins where that Dolphin is, okay? So what I don't understand is, is the Dolphin part of our ownership? Because it's in the waterways, truly in the waterways. Is that our collective property, or is it part of the, I don't know the answer,
My
so.
understanding is
It is,
we own it.
okay,
it's part of the operational,
okay.
thing, fuel. And they, again, my understanding is that Chevron would employ it if there's piping that came off of that would allow them, to pump the soda, whatever that they were using, down to that southern area, adjacent to.
Yep.
But I'm not sure, I mean, I've seen historic pictures that came from the site and prior there, it was just an industrial complex, pipes everywhere, tracks everywhere, buildings everywhere. So, there was some integration of whatever was coming off there, loading into that site as well as that.
King Fuels for you.
When is all this, it does seem like the project's been going on forever. When, you know, I'm not blaming,
The
but,
project is new, it's
Right.
the issue is.
Right.
yeah. Well, I think they started taking things down back when Dan Crowley was deputy mayor. I mean,
First phase demolition.
yeah,
Right.
so it has been going. But I mean, when do you expect actually it to be completed so that something can be done down there, developed?
After phase three,
Right.
Yeah,
So,
just ballpark, what year do you,
26.
26?
November 26th,
As soon as,
yeah.
the department,
Yeah.
um,
Now, I want to ask you, you obviously, know much more about King Fuels than I do. When they did the roundtables for the replacement of the Manans Bridge, the most popular by far, design went through there. Is that anything that would be feasible? I mean, you would know more than I.
this is something to bring up, with the Department of Transportation because there are essentially two options that came out of that health study that they find the most viable. And the one is to go a little bit north and integrate the bridge with Mill Street.
Right.
Second one is not go as much north and look at Morrison as the connector. And when funding for this gets brought up, because it's going to be I think it's estimated to be over a $30 million bridge project. I'm told that nothing is final. It still needs to be a lot more discussions. And I bring up the concern about economic redevelopment for the King Fuel site and the general area and how the city not in a supportive position to have that happen. DOT understands that and they will work principal shareholders to when final design starts moving. But we're looking due to funding. I had thought that the window of that happening was going to be within 3 years, more like somewhere within a 10-year realm now. So it's not immediate. The condition of the bridge necessitates it getting done within 10 years, because
Getting done or started?
get started. It just, that bridge can't continue in the current way without some major repairs. And they don't want to just reconstruct it. So, see what happens. But it's definitely a concern that's been expressed to the Department of Transportation that we do not want anything interfering with the viability of that site for its zoning and for its location and for the potential use of it.
How old is that bridge? I know,
Ooh.
Yeah.
like FDR was governor, I think he opened it up. Honestly, I think there's a plaque there that says that.
Didn't the
by-
guy jump off of it too? Like, it's just-
Gary Evans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I was actually working
Gary
that
Evans
day,
almost
Yeah,
real
as a
quick.
fireman.
yeah, he saved us a lot of money.
Yeah.
So does the state have potential eminent domain to do what they want?
Probably
I
always,
thought,
right?
yeah, that's what I thought, so,
And that's,
would they tell you?
well, again, that has to come through a lot more discussion. One thing that they do not like to pursue is eminent domain taking, especially, one of the considerations that I impress upon them is there is an ability for connectivity of looking, higher up to go to maybe Stowe and then up to 4. You're creating a new roadway, you're probably going to have to take a couple properties, but now you're creating a single use option rather than a local option in Bridge, multiple municipalities, and they don't like taking. They try to avoid it at all costs. They find it to be costly and.
No, I understand. I guess where I'm going with this is we've been working on King Fuels for 25 years, and I'm seeing we're getting to the end of phase, in November 26th, or so let's say January 27, we're gonna have a site that we can do economic development on, and all of a sudden there's gonna be this massive bridge, and you're gonna have basically the bottom of Hoosick Street, over this potential property that we can redevelop. So that's Andy playing chess and pushing out.
Yeah, no, that's understood.
Because I remember I remember Hoosick Street before that bridge was there. I mean,
Sure.
And there was actually a decent community down there.
And it's interesting because there were about 6 or 7 alternatives that were put out for public comment. And initially, people were very against any kind of integration of Mill Street into that because they saw the potential for Hoosick Street South.
Right.
They were just using Mill Street, connecting to Campbell and the bridge, and it would just become a nightmare. It's strange because ultimately that became the preferred option for the public comment. So, not really sure how that happened. I think just traffic patterns and the volumes supported it being more direct and less impactful than originally anticipated. But again, have to see. And any kind of development is a positive thing for that site because it makes it more difficult for an alternative to be considered if something exists as opposed to something doesn't exist. So what we have down there now is, well, we will have a remediated site, which again, environmentally, because National Grid is cleaning up their contaminants, that doesn't mean that all contaminants have been taken care of, so there'd be a cost to remediate for whatever bridge filings and structural support that would be necessary in addition to elevations and clearances that very costly. So I'm thinking that the most viable option would be that more southern shift and redevelopment of the Morrison Ave area to accommodate it, which would keep it away from County Waste, south of King Fuel. It would conceivably be the same exposure, but a little south and over the Chevron property. There's going to be something there, but
It seemed to me that what the people wanted, everything, in the end, I came away with the impression that they were just gonna build it right next to it, just south of it. Because somebody said, oh, well, you could go by Hudson Valley, the circle there, and go straight down.
Right.
But the person said from, Mill Street all the way down there is a lot further than you think. So I don't think that was, I think they're gonna, because there's just some old rundown houses there, I think they're gonna build it right next to the bridge, which would totally put it out of,
That seems to me is the best option because that then allows that gateway area to be redone properly to accommodate things, not just existing as, well, Band-Aids from the 1800s when people just walked down to the steel mills, from above. And again, like you say, it's more of a, they're dilapidated areas that could be utilized conceivably. The other alternatives that pushed it much more south, created a roundabout, you decide where you're going, north-south, was tough, and anything more south still had to deal with that significant grade, to get up to, and that's something that was part of the Exit 8 project years ago that they discontinued because of increasing costs about $1 million a week, trying to get a bypass.
Yeah.
And that would usually be an elevation change. I think they also have to use it anyway above the river, for ship transport. I think it's a little below our standards right now. Not to forget that still a Bonanza issue too. And what they anticipate doing over there, getting rid of the cloverleaf format, reestablishing usable land, wetland area, and developable land on that side, just making it work there in conjunction maybe with the 787 re-envisioning, to have that component done so that anything progresses from that outside of Albany, it'll already be there.
Are they gonna bring back the old park with the steeplechase in the 1800s there?
That I don't know.
It's like where it was, right? It was right in that school zone.
Thank you.
But it's, all the fits and starts of that site, it's nice to finally.
Fix the financials, or is it really important to get them done? The other guys are out there in the next meeting.
Oh, Matt's good at this, we got time. Let's do financials with Matt.
Yeah, we'll
We're done
bang it
with-
out.
Does that conclude all business and everything?
I think we're good.
Yeah, let's go on to financials with Matt.
Our first report, statement of financial position. As of January 31st, we had total assets of $3,872,203.60, with $599,327.96 of that in cash. Our total liabilities were $1,317,480, with a fund balance of $2,554,723. The most significant change to the statement of financial position is the payoff of the BSM loan, which happened in early January. And lastly, we have the statement of activities. For the month of January, we had a surplus of $153,956. The most significant source of revenue was the funds received for the geothermal project, and the largest expenses were the payments for the geothermal project.
Any questions or comments for Matt?
The geothermal money was just coming in and going out, right?
Yes.
Okay, motion to approve the financials for, well, this is covered, this is up to in January.
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nope. Motion passes, and the, motion to adjourn.
Actually, does anybody owe us money now that BSM's paid? Do we have anybody else that's owing us?
The only recurring payments we have coming in now, other than the ARPA and geothermal stuff, is National Grid,
Okay.
and they're pretty routine.
Okay, so all those old things, that, the BSM closed out that last one, okay. Beautiful. I'll make a motion to adjourn. Sheriff?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. We did it by 10 today.